Hey, welcome to Adventures with Peps. We are back on the Badab painting project where I attempt to paint all the chapters involved in the Badab War using speed paints. Show you off how to make them tabletop ready. Today we are doing what turned out to be the scariest one so far, the Star Phantoms. These guys are predominantly monochrome, a lot of white, a bit of black, just some color pop. So hopefully you'll stick around to see how I achieve this effect. I'll try and get some nice pictures up. And yeah, we'll go from there. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. So we kick off straight away, jumping in with a white primed assault intercessor, and into every crease and crack that you can see on the model, I added holy white. This is a army painter quick paint, speed paint. Mine just blanked on me there. Produces a grey effect. It's definitely not a full-on white, but as you see, it goes on very nicely. I just applied it to all the creases and let the paint do its own thing. Definitely parts that you have to go back to clean up, but as you can see, I just slap it on. This was the simple part of the paint scheme, because everything's white at this point, can't really go wrong. It definitely gets scarier when I start applying the blacks and reds, because one slight slip up and this pristine white armor suddenly goes south very quickly. So, for those who don't know, the Star Phantoms are a loyalist Space Marine chapter of the 23rd founding. They took part in the final days of the Badab War and the final assault upon the Astral Claw's homeworld of Badab Primaris. Just show off the model for a bit here. It's very hard to film a white model. The camera hates filming white. The lights hate lighting up white. It was a challenge, but I think you can make out the depths that I managed to achieve. And then after this, I used the base Citadel color Corax white to clean up the white that I completely messed up. There's just some bits where the paint ran too much, or the primer itself just didn't look good. Example was the shoulder pad, it had some black spots on it. Guess I primed too close with some black. But yeah, this chapter, they were created during the so-called Sentinel founding, where it was their mission to take and hold Xenos contested regions on the very borders of the Emperor's domain. Many of the chapter's earliest campaigns were waged against now extinct Xenos monstrosities, and the Star Phantoms frequently operate on their own and far from the support of other Imperial institutions. The situation is often cited as the main reason for the chapter's somewhat isolationist outlook, though others have advanced the notion that the cause is rooted to the Star Phantom's genetic heritage, which is suspected to be the Dark Angels. If this is true, that's pretty cool, but it's pretty unfounded at this point. The chapter as a whole has a lot of rites and traditions that focus on death and martyrdom. The fallen being revered over and above the living. Symbols of death and mourning are used as the chapter's iconography. The chapter symbol itself featuring a sand timer surmounted by two death's heads. So as you just saw in the video, I used a bit more white to pick out the corners, and I'm now using the speed paint pallid bone just to pick out the chest piece, the eagle wings, and then his little wax seal that's on his leg, just to give it that aged look. In battle, the Star Phantoms like to use overwhelming firepower in order to crush their enemy utterly. Unlike many other chapters, they hold no particular method of war as favourable or honourable. They make extensive use of drop pod assaults, supported by a greater than usual reliance on drop pods to deliver ordnance such as the Death Storm launcher, and favoured personal weapons are always those able to deliver the most impressive and destructive firepower. I love the sound of these guys. If their paint scheme was easier, these could compete with the Executioners, just based on the story alone. The idea of just gun lines, drop pods, shooting in devastator squads to blow up the enemy. Just sounds so cool. Now we're onto the Grim Black. This I originally used just mainly for the leg joints. I do come back to this paint towards the end to finish off the armor. But right now I'm just trying to block in the colors so that my brain can process what I'm looking at. I'm still feeling very much like I'm looking at a white primed model and nothing else. So getting some of these colors blocked in really starts helping to bring the figure together. So we're looking at the knee joints, the waist joints, the backpack harness, inside the vent air takes. So at this stage that you want to take your time. You've just as I make an error, you just finished doing all the white armor. The last thing you want to do is have your brush slip and you're suddenly doing a completely different chapter. And there we go, that's pretty much all the black done. You can see I got into his waist, got the air intakes. I think next up is going to be the dreaded eyeballs. For that I'm using the blood red. Yep, the blood red. The one that I used on the Howling Griffins that came out super bright. Thought a nice punch of red would look great. So I'm using it on the eye lenses and on the wax seal. There we have it. He is starting to look like a real live Space Marine. Hardened leather. This is my go-to brown for belts and pouches. So we start with the gun pouch, we got the grenade pouches and his belt around his waist. And whilst I'm doing that, let's talk a bit more about the Star Phantoms. So I only care about the Badab War. That's the theme of this project. So the rest of their history, though interesting, you can read for yourselves. But the Star Phantoms will play a vital role in the closing stages of the Badab War. The chapter was brought in to relieve the other Space Marine chapters fighting in the conflict who were recalled to their normal service duties. The Star Phantoms brought with them a full and substantial strength for their chapter, and were willing to commit it entirely to the cause. Soon they were assigned the key task of performing the final assault on the Palace of Thorns. As you just saw, the runic grey has just appeared. I like to use this as my metal. So I'm going to apply it to his bolt guns and his chainsaw blades. Where were we? Spearheaded by the venerable battle barge Memento Mori, along with a second battle barge, the Pale Wrath, the chapter undertook its role in the battle with a powerful force of 7 strike cruisers, 25 escorts, and assault vessels of various classes. The Star Phantoms attacked without falter or relent, and neither gave or expected quarter from their foe. They were victorious in their task, shattering the last ring of defences that protected the tyrant of Badab, Huron. It was an assault group led by the Star Phantom's captain, Andronicles, that cornered Huron, and it was Andronicles himself whose melter blast felled the fleeing tyrant of Badab, although he was slain in combat by the elite bodyguards of Huron. And though the Star Phantoms suffered horrendous casualties during the campaign, they were ultimately given governorship of the entire Badab sector and its worlds by the Imperial Inquisitors. And there they set up their brand new home base. So not only did they kick the Astral Claws asses, which disappoints me, they then got to keep the worlds as a little here you go. Now luckily these guys decided to set up on an ice moon rather than Badab Primaris itself, but I can see Heron and his red Corsairs not wanting to leave these guys alone. So with the metallic-y weapons done, we now move on to a darker grey. My plan for this is to use it on the weapon casing. Now this is a weird grey. It kind of has brown notes to it. Gives it a warmer feel. It's definitely like a rock, I guess, gravestone. That's probably where the name comes from, you fool. But yeah, it's definitely a warmer colour. It plays well with the monochrome that the Space Marines have going on without being straight up black. As you can see, I'm just applying it as best as I can. The problem you have with Space Marines is that they have a lot of flat panels, which means incredibly hard for the contrast or speed paints to grip to surfaces. So I'm trying to add as much depth as I can with the brush. As you can see on the top of the chainsaw, I tried to give it some more colour in the centre and flooded it a little bit there so that it would hang on to it. And I moved on to the, I guess, the hand rest for this bolt pistol. I'm not entirely sure what that part would be called. Oh my god, my door just slammed shut and made me jump. Is this a cursed founding? I'm terrified. But anyway, there you go, there's the darker grey on now. We then move on to the grim black. Going to be using this for the actual gun casing, the top part. I was thinking red. That's very traditional, but it didn't fit in my head with the colour scheme. So I went with the safer black. I also do a half scheme on one knee pad, a full black on the other knee pad. And I also pick out the shoulder pads. In the artwork, which I'll pop up on the screen, it just happens to be the picture that I'm looking at. I contemplated attempting the chapter symbol. I didn't want to ruin the model, so you're not going to see that. Maybe in the future, once I've practiced a bit more, I'll come back and do some chapter symbols on these guys, but for now his shoulder pad will remain blank. In the artwork, the Space Marine I'm copying has a skull on his right knee. Once again, I don't have the skill set for that. I don't have transfers either, so I'm not going to attempt it at this time. I will hopefully go back and finish it. But yeah, let's just see how this part goes, and we'll be right back. Right, at this stage, I guess I better remind you to like, comment, subscribe. I recently passed the 200 mark, which is amazing. Hopefully we can hit the 500 and I can start posting community tabs and photos, which would be great. Show you what I'm working on, show you what I'm trying to work on. But on that note, I think the next Space Marine I want to do, now that I've practiced my white, is going to be a Nova Marine. That's white and blue quartered. I think that's going to be a fun one to paint. And then I think we're going to have to attempt a salamander at some point. Never done a salamander. I think some green to break up my colours that I've been using a lot of late would be good. I also want to try a lamenter. I know I can do the yellow armour. I have that lovely army painter zealot yellow. The only thing scaring me about that one is the checkered pattern for the shoulder pads. Ugh. But hey, drop me a comment if you have a preference on what you want to see next, but I think it's going to be Nova Marines. And with the black all done, we have a finished model. Now for those interested, the base is just sand, painted white in the priming process, and then I just used dark wood as a wash to give me an earthy tone. And then some Army Painter swamp tufts, just to give it a little bit of a character. And then I probably need to go around the base one more time with Badab Black, just to give it more solidness, because I can see some base shining through still. What a lovely chapter. There you go. That's him next to the other Space Marines. Ooh, wobbly camera syndrome. I'm enjoying this so far. I now have 3 Loyalists and 2 Heretics painted. I need to get probably onto the Mantis Warriors and the Lamentas soon. But yeah, I think we gotta do Nova Marines next, just whilst I can remember how to do the white paint. I hope you've enjoyed. Hope you'll give me a like, a subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers for watching.